Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1701B, and today's date is October 28th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Think Timing, We Are at the Precipice, Deep State Mission, Prevent Hammer. Now, before we get started, I want to talk about being prepared. We all know the deep state, they like to play dirty. We know they push events. I remember when I was in New York City during the 2003 blackout, I wish I had a tool to charge my phone and use it so I can see inside the building. Well, the Patriot Survival Flashlight, it's solar powered, it has a rope and wire cutter, glass breaking hammer, a magnet to pick up metal objects, lantern light so you can read by your desk, a USB port to charge your phone anywhere, emergency lights, and a compass. This phone has it all. Now, this flashlight is an all-in-one lifesaver. I wouldn't go anywhere without it. It's lightweight but very durable. Patriot flashlight, it's either a perfect gift or buy it for yourself. And if you use the code X15, you will get 15% off your Patriot Survival Flashlight. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are in full panic mode right now. And if you noticed, since the beginning of October, we've been seeing a lot of things, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to start off with this caravan. And one of the key organizers for this caravan that's coming up from Central America is Pueblo Sin Fronteras, or People Without Borders. And Pueblo Sin Fronteras wants to keep it that way. Now, the New York Times, they've said that no group has claimed responsibility for organizing the caravan that's coming up to the United States. Trump has been saying that, yes, this is organized. Now, the Times, however, is only partially correct. While no single group has claimed control over the migrant caravan, at least two activists from Pueblo Sin Fronteras, Dennis Omar and Rodrigo Abeja, are embedded in the caravan, and they're reportedly helping to lead the caravan through Mexico up to the United States. Now, when we look at these two organizations and these individuals, they are connected to Soros. How are they connected? Well, they're connected through the following. They're supported by the coalition Cara Family Detention Pro Bono Project, which includes Catholic Legal Immigration Network, the American Immigration Council, and the Refugee and Immigration Center for Education and Legal Services, and the American Immigration Lawyers Association, thus the acronym CARA. At least 3 of the 4 groups are funded by George Soros' Open Society. So we can see that George Soros is behind a lot of this. Now, Mattis is out there. He is saying that the U.S. military has begun delivering Jersey barriers to the southern border in conjunction with plans to deploy active duty troops down at the border. And we know that the mainstream media, if the caravan ever makes it up there and it's starting to fall apart and it's dwindling, they're hoping that there's some type of event that would occur where they can show that the border guards, the caravan, they clash, people get hurt. This is something that they want to happen. This would push their agenda. But at this point, it looks like the caravan, they might not even make it up there until after the election. So this whole thing might be a moot point at this time. But again, this is part of their event. We see George Papadopoulos, he's considering withdrawing from Mueller's plea deal. Now, we've learned that the FBI was withholding information when they submitted and the Department of Justice when they were submitting the FISA application. And George Papadopoulos is out there, and he's thinking to himself, why should I be taking this plea deal when there's evidence that shows something completely different? So it appears he has only recently understood the scope, scale, and totality of Operation Spygate, the corrupt enterprise within the Department of Justice FBI Operation Crossfire Hurricane. And he realizes the intentional and manufactured setups by Brennan, McCabe, Strzok, Priestab, Yates, McCord, Mueller, and the rest, and now is considering withdrawing from this plea deal. And he should. Now, we're seeing, like we said in the beginning, many different events. We had that bomber who sent these fake bombs to all these distant individuals that were under investigation. And people have been looking at this individual's Twitter account. This is Caesar, and he has many different names associated with this. It seems like he's the patsy. But when you look at the Wayback Machine and you look at both Twitter accounts, at HardRock16 and at HardRockINTL, you see that there's no snapshots before the date of the bombs. There's nothing before this. And it shows that these Twitter accounts were created back in 2016. So something is wrong here and something doesn't make sense. But we see there's other events happening. There was an event in a synagogue in Pittsburgh. People have died. And remember, all false flags, what they mean is someone prepared this and they're trying to blame it on someone else. It doesn't mean that people didn't die, that people didn't get hurt. I mean, look at 9/11. Those buildings came down, and yes, people got hurt, people died, but it was a false flag. Same thing with many other events. Yes, there are hoaxes also where no one has died. But just because it's called a false flag doesn't mean that people didn't die. And to really push an agenda, you want the false flag to look as real as possible. And what we're seeing out of all these different events, there are certain narratives that are happening right now. Now, what the mainstream media and what the deep state is doing right now, they're saying that this individual who went into the synagogue and killed many different people, they're saying that he was on Gab 9 months ago. There was also a drill 9 months ago with this synagogue, which is very interesting that they coincide and they happen at the same exact time. Now, since this individual was on Gab, they're saying, well, maybe we should get rid of Gab and censor them. So the hosting company right now decided that they don't want to host Gab right now. PayPal decided that they don't want to support Gab right now. And Gab has until Monday until their entire system is taken down. Now, a lot of people have come out and they said, well, wait a minute, this is just ridiculous. Just because someone's on there, why should this be taken down? I mean, people are tweeting out. Here's one from Melissa. Despite my being a very liberal and veering decidedly left on the political spectrum, I see this as a terrible thing. We need to be able to discuss these issues, and forcing certain viewpoints underground or out of the way is not right ever. Mark Morris, ridiculous decision. This nut job was always going to commit this horrific crime, whether he made public comments or not. The fact that he did make public comments have helped the FBI and Department of Justice. Silencing people doesn't stop their physical actions, does it? Gab is not responsible. Now, if this person, put a comment on YouTube or Facebook or any of the other platforms, should they be taken down? If this individual went into a supermarket and shouted out, certain things, should the supermarket be shut down? No. So this agenda right here is for a specific reason. They're doing this on purpose because what happened was people were moving away from Twitter and moving on to Gab. And then people were moving from Gab and going on to Vote. And I think what's happening here is they thought, if we block people on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, we can shut this whole thing down. But what they didn't realize is that there's many other platforms. And many people would go to these other platforms, thousands upon thousands of people, and they would use these platforms to push the message. And they don't like this. And they're trying to figure out a way to censor everyone. Remember, they started out with shadow banning. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Shadow banning and outright banning, they're just the beginning. Everyone who posts content on the web or social media is subject to much more subtle and completely opaque controls on how much of your digital presence has been ghosted. Not just in social media communities, but in searches and everything else like YouTube, Facebook, all your postings. Remember, the cartel, the deep state, they own social media right now. Google, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And they've been using the practice of shadow banning, trying to control the narrative. Now, we need to go back to post 2271 of Q. And Q has been warning of this for a very long time. This post says, all right, Reddit, remember, was taken down. So an anon was saying, can we move to a different location? And Q said, yes, in the coming weeks, it will be important to have one central location, non-8chan. But Q is going to remain on 8chan because Q knew that these different platforms were going to be taken down. And eventually, most likely they'd all be taken down, and 8chan would be the last one there. Post 2298, Q reminds us, Twitter has been given the green light to blanket censor all content deemed to threaten their survival. Election, in brackets, bold. Google, Facebook will follow. Expect Calm's blackout attempt, POTUS Twitter. Rogue employee excuse. So Q already knew from the chatter that they've been hearing is that the end game would be to bring down POTUS's Twitter account. And then Q went on to say, welcome to the police state. They know if they lose, it's over. The time to fight is now. Good versus evil. Humanity is at stake. Drop the memes. Silent majority. No more. Be loud. Are you registered? Vote them all out. Prepare Red October. And it's very interesting because we are seeing a Red October. Not just in the way of a red wave, but in other ways. Think of all the events. We stand together. So why are we seeing this now? This has been part of the deep state narrative shift, their new playbook. Q has warned us about this. They're using all their ammunition in this fight, but they cannot win because the truth is way too powerful and overshadows propaganda. What have we seen in the last 3 weeks? Think about it. In the last 3 weeks, how many events have we seen? 5. In 3 weeks, Kavanaugh with Dr. Ford. Event number 1. They tried to stop Kavanaugh. Remember, Kavanaugh needs to be on the Supreme Court to have the D-class and all the information come out so they can use the Supreme Court to push their agenda to prosecute these individuals. So the deep state lost. Scratch that out. Then we have Khashoggi. Well, the murder of a journalist in Turkey in a Saudi consulate, trying to get Trump to bring down the global economy. Not working. Scratch that one out. Caravan, still in play, headed towards the U.S. It's dwindling right now. Trump is setting up the borders to protect the United States to make sure these individuals can't even get past the border. And it looks like the pushback is going to work. Next event, bombs sent to all those being investigated. Now remember, all of what we're seeing right now, the narrative shift is to blame it on Trump. Look at the mainstream media. They're specifically saying it's Trump's fault. He's inciting violence. Stop the violence. Stop the hate. It's because of Trump. That's why we're seeing this. That's their big play right now. That's their narrative. And then we have the event at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. And again, what are they saying? What's the message that's out there? The message is to sway everyone to think that Trump is responsible for all these events, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I believe right before the election there's going to be maybe one more, maybe 2 if they can fit it in. And we're going to see much more larger type of an event. And if you notice, they're getting a little bit bigger and closer to home. Think about this for a sec. So what we're seeing is their playbook, their narrative shift. They're trying to push whatever they possibly can. Now, Q warned us that it was coming. Let's go back to post 2254. We are at the precipice. This was September 21st when Q said this. We are at the precipice. Brackets all bold. Swamp. Fighting back. Remain calm. We are here for a reason. Patriots are in control. Q. Post 2360. Repost in brackets, search and destroy. Wrap up smear deployed versus Justice K. Well, we already saw that. They already did the wrap up smear. They deployed it. It didn't work. What are we seeing now? Q's telling us. Wrap up smear deployed versus POTUS. We are seeing that right now. The smear campaign with all these events is going directly towards Trump. About hate, about division, and he's responsible for this. Now, if you notice, his message is, let's prosecute these individuals to the full extent of the law. If anyone killed anyone, they should get the death penalty. We should unify and come together as a nation. The message he's putting out there is completely opposite of what the deep state wants. Let me continue. Q says these people are sick. Hashtag walk away. Hashtag vote Republican. Q. So from Reuters, we see from tweets to bombs, suspects rage at Trump, foes escalated. We have Schiff out there, Representative Adam Schiff, discussed the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh a day earlier that resulted in the killing of 11 people. Schiff said, the problem is not how he's handling the aftermath, although I don't agree that this could have been avoided if they had someone armed in the synagogue. That's not the answer. The broader issue is what kind of climate are we creating in this country? This country is filled with amazing, beautiful, wonderful people who came here, many of them attracted by the idea this was a land of opportunity, no matter your religion, ethnic origin, your color. That idea is being tested. No, it's not. That idea is not being tested. You can come into this country, but there's a process. It's always been a process. But he said this idea is being tested by those who are preaching hatred and division. Who's preaching hatred? The message of unification, coming together, peace, is not hatred. They're preaching hatred. They're projecting this out there. Think mirror. And the tone that he sets is one of division. He's talking about Trump. Often one of hatred. Sometimes one of incitement of violence against journalists. No, he's telling the journalists to start investigating. Stop reporting fake news. Report the truth. You know why they're afraid of this? Because if they do report the truth, guess what? All the fingers are then pointed to the deep state. He went on to say, sometimes one of incitement of violence against journalists, and there's no escaping our collective responsibility, but there's no escaping the tone that he sets for the country. The tone for the country is going after those people who are treasonous, those people who've committed crimes. That's the tone. The other part of the tone is where we go one, we go all. It's a peace-loving nation. We should come together and look at our true enemy. That's the message. So out of the Daily Beast, we have the headline. Trump comes face to face with his nightmare, a news cycle he can't control. Think about what they're saying right here. They've created this news cycle, and they're hoping he can't control this. That there's too much going on, and it's completely out of control, and they can gain the narrative from all these events. So let's look at some of Q's other posts here, because it starts to make sense now. 2361, this was October 6th. Unplug from fake news, false reality, brackets bold. Propaganda arm of Deep State Party, Democrat Party. Think for yourself. Research for yourself. Find the truth. Don't be a pawn in their sick game. Now, Trump was out there, and he denounced the media on Friday for trying to pin the recent bomb scare on him and his supporters. He said, "We have seen an effort by the media in recent hours to use the sinister actions of one individual to score political points against me and the Republican Party. Trump condemned political violence and called for an end to the politics of personal destruction, especially from the media. Political violence must never, ever be allowed in America, and I'll do everything in my power to stop it," he said. The media has a major role to play, whether they want to or not. They have a major role to play as far as tone, as far as everything, he said. The media, constant unfair coverage, deep hostility, and negative attacks only serve to drive people apart and to undermine healthy debate. Remember, the deep state, they don't like debate. They just like their one side, and that's it. And if you don't agree with it, well, they attack you. The media has tried to attack the incredible Americans who support our movement to give power back to the people, Trump said. Our supporters are some of the most honest, wonderful, principled, hardworking, patriotic people on the face of God's earth. So basically, what is the deep state afraid of? The power coming back to the people. The people having a voice. The people calling out the deep state. This is what they're most afraid of. He went on to say at the rally in Illinois, The hearts of all Americans are filled with grief following the monstrous killing of Jewish Americans at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You've all seen it. The suspect is in custody. The federal authorities are on the scene and leading an aggressive federal investigation. State and local law enforcement has been incredible. He's not backing down from it. He's telling the world that we need to go after these people that commit these crimes, that we need to come together as a country. We should reject all of this. That's not spewing hate. That's spewing coming together. It's spewing love. So what we're seeing right now is that the deep state, they are panicking because at the rallies that Trump attends, the people chant, lock him up, lock her up. They're chanting, lock the treasonous criminal element up. Reporters, the mainstream media, the deep state, they don't like this. Remember, because they're the ones who've committed these crimes. They're the ones who are going to be on the hot seat. You know, all those individuals like Clinton, Soros, Biden, Obama, Holder, Comey, and the rest of the gang. So the group of reporters, while the crowd was chanting all of this, they wanted Trump to tone down his rhetoric. You know, stop the crowd. Let's not say this. Let's not have this. Why? Because if this got out, which it is getting out, people are going to start to say, why are they chanting this? Why is this message getting out there? And we're seeing all these events occur in such a small period of time. All of this is happening at once, together, to try to shift the narrative. It's failing. What are they really afraid of? What is the deep state really afraid of? This is what they're afraid of, because we're at a critical point. We are now seeing a monetary meltdown, a financial collapse, and the deep state, the elite, will need some very serious protection this time around. Because the plan is to go after the central banks, the elite, the deep state. And there's no place for them to run. The events that we are watching unfold were engineered by the deep state just prior to the election to prevent the coming red tsunami. Now, I believe Red October has many different meanings, as we can see. The deep state is so threatened by an enlightened citizenry. They are more afraid of an enlightened we the people than ever before. The internet has permitted millions of users to post their citizen indictments of virtually every deep state individual on the planet. I mean, this is from banksters, from warmongers, from like the Rothschilds, the Clintons, the Brennans, Obamas, Soros, all of them. The people have ID'd public enemy number one across the World Wide Web. This is what the deep state is most afraid of, that the people would come together and start pointing the finger at them instead of having, division within the people, like race riots and race wars and things like that, putting Republicans and Democrats against each other. This is what the deep state and the central bankers like the most, because this takes away the fingers being pointed to them. Now, through this World Wide Web, the people can come together and they can point the fingers at public enemy number one. That is the deep state, the central bank. Yes, these individuals, they've been caught up and captured by a web of their own making. And they're trying to figure a way out of this. Now, to take this a step further, all their wars, all their manufactured wars, all their lies about terrorists, all their lies about why we needed to be in the Middle East, that is all falling apart. Right now, Germany, France, Turkey, Russia, Syria, they've all met together and they are going to push peace in the Middle East. They're talking about peace in Syria. Now, the deep state, they've been cut out of the Russia and UN brokered Astana process to bring Syria's war to a close. So what are they talking about right now? Well, they're talking about a political solution for Syria. The leaders have expressed their support for an inclusive, Syrian-led, Syrian-owned political process that is facilitated by the United Nations. need to start work on constitution in Geneva. A committee tasked with drafting a new constitution for Syria should begin its work as soon as possible. No to division of Syria. Syria must continue to exist with its pre-war borders. So that is off the table right now. Keep ceasefire and defeat terrorists. The 4 countries have expressed their support for Idlib ceasefire deal and to remove all terrorists from Syria. We're at the end stage here, people. The deep state knows it, and they're going to push their agenda as hard as they possibly can. But it's going to fail. There's no way out of this for them. The truth is out there. You can't use propaganda against the truth. It's completely impossible. What are they trying to do? They're trying to use every piece of ammunition they have to stop the hammer from coming down. And remember, they're going to have to use everything they have to stop it. They only have a short period of time. If they lose control, which means they lose the election, well, it's either they go for the Hail Mary and they use whatever they have. And that would probably be a cyber attack or something on the infrastructure, the banking infrastructure, and make it look like another group or something happened here to try to start a war. That's all they have left. Q has been telling us about this. How do you start a war? Look at the markers. And this is all they would have left. So here we are right now. We're moving in the right direction. We're pushing the deep state further back into the corner, and eventually it will be game over for them. Even if they try to push the latest event, the Hail Mary of all events, I don't know if they'll get it off the ground. I don't know if it will be even believable. I mean, they'll try, but at that point, it will be too late. So I'm saying from now until the election, most likely we'll see one more, maybe even 2, if they have the ability to do it. And if you notice, these events are getting closer and closer to home here. And I think they're going to continue with this to try to get their message out there and try to shift the narrative. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.